you looking to get a degree from Harvard, Yale, or Cambridge? Well, if the visa process and the funding is the only thing keeping you from pursuing an Ivy League dream, then the University Grants Commission may have some good news for you. UGC recently announced draft regulations for foreign universities to set up their campuses on Indian soil. A lot has been said about how India could become a global educational hub and bring more foreign investments and foreign students into India. So this is great news. But in the weeks since this announcement, a number of questions have been raised, some of them including whether this is really what Indian education needs right now. To speak on this, I'm joined first by M. Jagdish Kumar. He's the chairman of the UGC. I'll be speaking exclusively with him. We'll also then be discussing the impact of this with educationists who are joining us on the show. Anubha Sahai, President IWPA, Meeta Sen Gupta with me today, and Shruti Kapila of University of Cambridge. But first, let me come exclusively to Mr. Kumar. Thank you so much for joining us on the India Development Debate. Mr. Kumar, I want to start by getting your response to all the reactions that have come in to this proposal. Not all of them have been very positive. It has been quite mixed. Are you surprised by that?
Not at all. Whenever we introduce any reforms, there will be several suggestions and there will be questions. But Tamanna, we need to see this decision in the larger context of what is happening in the higher education arena in India. During last 2 years, using the national education policy as a roadmap, several reforms have been introduced in our higher education, including the multidisciplinary education, the academic bank of credits, and the national credit framework. And now we are working on a national digital university and so on. And as part of this, internationalization of Indian higher education is also one of the recommendations of the national education policy. And this is done in two ways. One way is encouraging our Indian educational institutions to set up their campuses abroad. UGC is already working on a regulation towards that end. And the other way of internationalization is to encourage the foreign universities to come and set up their campuses in India. And towards that end, we have come up with these draft regulations. Many suggestions are being sent to UGC. And as you said, there are also some questions and doubts raised. And I would be very glad to answer any such questions and suggestions that come to us.
So you have today, in an article argued that this is a win-win for students and institutes. So I want to understand why there's a win-win. And let me contextualize that question. There's a report today that says the top tier that people can only aspire to, and a handful of students globally get into your Harvards, your MITs, etc., are unlikely to come and open their branches here. So question number one, how will we ensure that the creamy universities come here? Because that's going to make the difference, rather than the ones which are pure for-profit educational institutions and which won't make too much of a difference to the quality of education in India, which I presume is the ultimate goal.
Your question is, why is it win-win? Let me explain in the following way. Last year alone, more than 4 lakh students went abroad. And it is expected that in the coming year or so, this number will reach about 1.8 million, indicating that a huge number of students in India they want to have access to high quality education wherever it is available, whether it is in India or abroad. And many of these students go there for the kind of cultural experience they will have, for the kind of experiences they gain by working in a different system. And these students will continue to go. However, there are also a large number of students who may not be so financially sound, or there may be students who are financially sound, but they want to stay back in India and access high quality education. It is for those students that we want to establish these campuses by the foreign universities. And why is it win-win? Well, when good institutions come here, there is bound to be collaborations between these campuses and our Indian institutions. You can work on joint research projects. And also, when the standards of education in these institutions are much better, then the other institutions in India too have to compete with them, and they have to raise their own standards. So therefore, it is going to have an impact on the entire ecosystem of higher education in India. And it is also a win for the foreign higher educational institutions, because please remember that India is one of the largest educational systems in the world. We have close to about 300 million students from class 1 to PhD, and nearly 40 million students in our higher education, which is going to double soon. So therefore, there is a huge human capital, highly talented young people in our country, and they can be tapped by these foreign universities and engage them in their research and other academic activities. Therefore, it's going to be a win-win situation for both sides.
But that still doesn't answer my question, sir. Will the big boys come here? The Harvards, the MITs, the Yales, because that's the win-win. They have fees that, a majority of Indian students can't even dream of. The 6.5 lakh that went last year, maybe a handful of them made it to these top Ivy League. Does this open the door for Ivy League in India?
Let me answer in the following way. The 4.5 lakh students who have gone abroad, all of them haven't gone to Harvard or Yale or Stanford. True. Only a handful of them have done. And the rest of them have joined in some of the best universities across Europe and the North America. So please don't focus only on few universities, whether they will come or not. UGC is very, very conscious of the quality of education they will provide in India. That is why we have clearly mentioned that only those top universities which are within 500 world university ranks, they are eligible to apply for campuses, for establishing campuses in India. But however, UGC will have a standing committee to examine those applications and let only the best universities to come into India.
Okay. I'm going to expand this conversation, Mr. Jagdish Kumar. I have a group of educationists with me on the panel, and I request, your time to listen to some of their questions and queries as well as we move along. I have with me Anubha Sahai, President IWPA, Meeta Sengupta, educator, and Shruti Kapil of the University of Cambridge. Meeta ji, let me begin with you and your take on the prospect of foreign universities coming here and how it will really change things for Indian students wanting to go abroad. Of course, we have the UGC chairman with us.
Absolutely. Thank you very much. These are exciting times. And I think one of the first things we have to remember is this is the long game. It is a game that has been on for the past 10 years. We started inviting these universities almost a decade ago. And this is a long kabuki dance. This is a negotiation, and this is a policy level negotiation between nations as such, and globally across groups of nations as well. So but each time a positive step, a progressive step is taken, this is the visible manifestation of these big negotiations that are happening, which means these universities will be invited. But the pragmatic thing that you see in the policy announcement that the chairman just also mentioned is that the top 500 have been invited. Now, factually look at it. Indian universities, the best of them, are in the 300, 400 range, which means we're also saying, please come in at parity. Please come in at parity, come and experiment, come and demonstrate the success of what is happening over here. Practically, we're inviting those as well, but we're also creating open doors and saying, telling the larger universities, the bigger brand universities, that there is opportunity here. The cynicism is valid, the doubts are valid, all of those are valid, but this is a step in the process. And I would like to take this opportunity actually to ask a question. Thank you for inviting questions, Tamanna, because we have this amazing opportunity post-pandemic globally and within Indian universities. And because India has just launched the National Digital University, we have this opportunity to invite the others in the top 10, top 15 to a digital future with India, a hybrid learning future with India. So just by adapting the model, a little bit, I think we can open the doors even further within the same policy. And it's these opportunities that are wonderful. I know you asked another question about how it will be good for students in India. Of course, it will be good.
For Mr. Jagdish Kumar?
The question.
Let me answer her question. It's a very, very valid question.
Yes.
When the National Digital University is established, We are expecting it to start its certificate and diploma programs in July 2023. It's going to operate as a hub and spoke model. The hub will have a small administrative and technical team, but the spokes will be some of the best universities in India. But in future, we will also be involving many companies, educational companies as part of the spokes. We will also be inviting some of the best universities from abroad also to be part of the national digital universities. Therefore, using the digital technology, using the digital content, they can definitely be partners in our educational efforts in India. But the second question, why in our UGC regulations, we said that these campuses have to offer only the physical mode education. The reason is this: many students, when they go abroad, as many commentators have said, they go there because of the diverse cultural experience they will get in these campuses. And that's the reason why we said that these campuses can admit not only Indian students, but also students from across the globe. And I expect that from the global south, you will have a lot of students coming because of the proximity to India and also the affordability of living here. Many of them may come here. Therefore, these campuses will be really like a global campus. And we want our students to have that kind of experience by interacting with their peers who are coming from across the globe, and also by interacting physically with the international faculty who come and teach here. And that's the reason why we are saying that only the physical mode program should be given in these campuses.
I think that's very interesting, because we are trying to create an alternative to the number of students, lakhs of them that go abroad every year, and they are going there not just for the syllabus but for the experience. Can we bring that experience here is the question. Anubha Sahai, representing parents in a sense here, she's part of an association. Do you have a question, Ms. Sahai, for Mr. Kumar?
Thank you for having me here, and it's a good initiative, no doubt, and I think parents and students are looking forward to it. Definitely, because see, as a parent, even I would want my child to stay in India, and see, staying abroad and spending spending money abroad is not an easy thing. Education you may get like for free also in other universities outside of India, but as far as staying and other expenses are concerned, it's quite high. So if universities are coming in India, definitely it is going to help parents and students in India, and I'm 100% sure that many would be opting for these institutions. But as far as the fees are concerned, I don't know whether the student from underprivileged background will be able to have access to these universities or not, because their fees will be very high as far as the fees and other infrastructure is concerned. I think government should focus on giving aid, or maybe CSR activities can be initiated in these institutions so that underprivileged children also can get education in these institutions. Like, for example, in India, everyone aspire to join IITs. Why? Because across the globe, students from IIT, most of the companies, they take students from IIT in our country. So the level is very high in our country. Students are very brilliant. And if other universities are coming, then definitely I think the opportunity should be given to those students who are from underprivileged background.
Okay, let him answer that question. It's a good question. It has been raised as well. Is this
what will be the reservation? Whether reservation will be applicable, because many students tell me that we go out of India because reservation we don't get seats.
I think there is no provision for reservation as far as I've seen. These are going to be for-profit institutions because they can repatriate their earnings outside. Am I right, Mr. Jagdish Kumar?
You're absolutely right. But I agree with two of the observations she has made. One is the social factor. When our students go abroad, they don't come back to India maybe for the next 1 year or 2 years because the travel costs are very prohibitively high. And the other reason why students may like to stay here is the living cost will be nominal. And every time a vacation comes, just like any other Indian institute, they can go back, stay with their parents. So this social factor also is very, very important. And the other question that she said, what about those students who may not be financially sound? Can they afford such high fees and join in these campuses? We are mindful of that fact also. That is why if you read the regulations, draft regulations, there is a very clear clause which says that based on an evaluation process, need-based partial or full scholarships may be given by these universities. And this is a practice in many international universities.
Who will pay for it? Will the universities have to pay for it?
It is the only university which has to pay.
But why would they want to do that? So you're not making it mandatory.
No. This is a global practice in best universities across the world. There are always need-based partial and full scholarships to the students who are not financially sound. So therefore, this clause says that these universities have to give such scholarships also.
No, so just to reconfirm and reiterate, this is not going to be a condition for them to set up in India, but if they want to, they can also offer scholarships here. Am I understanding that correctly?
You're absolutely right, but these are the global practices. When they are practicing it in their own main campus, it is very unlikely that they will not practice in a campus established in India.
Shruti, Kapila, thank you so much for your patience and joining us on the show. Of course, a question from Mr. Jagdish Kumar from you, but I also want to get your take on whether this model is workable, because the lure from the Indian point of view of a foreign university education is also this global faculty, is also a global student body that you get to interact with. It's also, the experience of a different lifestyle in a different world.
You're absolutely right.
I'm just going to Ms. Kapila, sir. Let her just give her,
Okay.
Thank you. I don't have a question for the UGC chairman, but let me start by saying that I did study. I'm a product of Indian education, though my professional career has been international. So I do know both sides of it and how the scene has actually changed. Of course, it's a no-brainer. There's a massive higher education deficit in India. Having said that, this policy is not going to address anything because if you look at, this is basically a franchise model, and top universities such as Cambridge, where I am, or several other Ivy Leagues that have been mentioned by you, they do not operate like McDonald's franchises where you kind of open up a little, you get a little license and you open up a shop. Because what are universities such as mine, which are 800 years old, or some of them might be 100 years old, are built on very hard-won research and teaching culture. And I think that has not been addressed by whatever I have seen. There's an absolutely lack of substantive academic autonomy in Indian institutions. And if you are not going to thrive, whether it is the sciences or whether it is the humanities, and I think I'm not breaking any news by saying that the political system in India is too integrated into higher education and university life. So I think those are serious obstacles, and at least top universities will need to be convinced that they can actually do the work that they ordinarily do in their campuses in England or in America or wherever. And if you even look at the comparable campuses that have been set up, they're not very many. You would think that this would be happening all the time, but actually it hasn't happened for a very good reason, because even if you look at Qatar, in the Gulf, or even in Singapore, where American Ivies have opened up campuses, it's only because those governments have substantially invested in those campuses. Now, my university is not a for-profit university. So it is not going to be enticed by a franchise model that there'll be more fee-paying students, that there's all this kind of untapped student body that could be recruited. So I think there's serious questions here about research culture, academic autonomy, but also the way in which a vision, which it's all very well to talk about a global culture, but what does it mean when you say that this is a global, that you want to have a global research culture? Because even visas, clearances, these are fiendish for even foreign scholars now to access their collaborators, their researchers, or even fieldwork in India. So I would say that, all very well, very nice to get periodic declarations from the government of India. We are quite accustomed to them. As the first person said, this has been going on for 10 years. But I think, I worry that if, you are going to get either a very bottom heavy system where there will be a kind of for-profit model where not very competitive universities are going to show up. And I, as an Indian, would feel terrible about it because I did study in top university in India. And the top universities are not, will find that, you will have to create the context.
Okay.
India will have to create a context for actual genuine academic freedom, autonomy, and research culture.
Let me get, I think you've raised some excellent points, Shruti Kapila, and we are glad to have all points of view, because at the end of the day, the purpose is of academic excellence. I mean, as a parent of a young child today, I can only dream tomorrow that my child would go to an Ivy League. And I don't know if I could ever afford it. So the idea is excellent to have options. Jagdish Kumar, I think the point about academic autonomy is an important one. Would you like to address that?
See, I was Vice Chancellor of one of the best universities in the country, in India, Jawaharlal Nehru University, for 6 years. I can vouch for it that we had complete academic freedom and autonomy. Nobody ever tried to interfere with us. And I come from IIT system. I'm a professor of electrical engineering at IIT Delhi. We have complete autonomy in terms of running our academic programs, in deciding our syllabus, in faculty recruitment, and so on. I think we need to observe our Indian institutions from close quarters to see the kind of autonomy that we enjoy. And the second question, well, if a university is 800 years old and they do not have a practice of opening a campus, well, we are not going to change that. That is the reason why we have widened the opportunity for more universities. And we said only those which are within top 500 are eligible to apply. And only those universities which may be interested to come to India and establish their campuses here, they will come. And we are very sure, and one of our recent surveys also shows that top 200 universities in the world, they have indicated India as an ideal destination. So there is a positive ecosystem in India. It is one of the fastest growing economies in the world. It is also the third largest ecosystem for establishing startup companies. And we have the largest young people in the world in our country, the largest human capital. And we are very, very sure that many universities will come and establish their campuses in the coming years. And also, it cannot happen overnight. It may happen in next 5 years, 10 years, 20 years. If universities are built over 800 years, don't expect overnight magical things to happen in India. It will also take its own time.
Ms. Kapila wants to respond. Yes.
Yeah, I just want to say that this is not about the fact that they're 800 years old and therefore they have survived and that's why they must survive. But that's because a very particular kind of research culture and teaching culture has been encouraged. And I think I'm a product of JNU, so I well know what has happened to that university, or particularly over the last 10 to 15 years. It is not, as I said, breaking news to say that appointments are less than transparent in terms of, and I don't even want to go open up the big can of worms on the nature of public debate and academic freedom in India at the moment. But I think it is an important point. The worry, whatever the UGC chairman has said, it's not simply about Cambridge. Even on the basis of what he is saying, it worries me that you're basically then going to be targeting universities which want to make money, which will see Indian students as a captive consumer market, rather than actually really bringing the best research universities with the best teaching practices, which is what, if you are really
Ms. Kapila, may
world
I ask
power,
you,
that is what you should be aiming for.
Absolutely.
You should have a very high bar.
Just one question, Ms. Kapila.
High bar of entry.
Absolutely, but just one question, Ms. Kapila. Like you mentioned, these top universities don't have the franchise model. They don't wish to. But they don't exist. McDonald's. Correct. They don't exist anywhere else apart from
I don't
where they do.
I can speak for my colleagues here.
So why do we expect it's going to be different in India?
No, it's not true that people are not keen. In fact, all of us, given the nature of globalization, given that I studied in India and teach at Cambridge, we are all aware that there is a new way to do, as it were, research and teaching. It's just that, the specific fit has to work.
Okay.
And I'm pointing out precisely what the obstacles will be in India. And it's not a political point I'm making, because these are hard-won values, cultures, dare I say, brands. And they're not going to dilute themselves and be caught up in local controversies, which then, deflect the work that they wish to do. And,
Yeah.
and as I said, if you look at what has happened in Singapore, or if you look at what has happened in the Gulf, where actually the top American universities have gone, it's a very mixed story, precisely because.
Yeah. No, you're
Yeah.
right. There have been controversies with top American universities taking money for admissions, etc. But then, we're digressing from the key issues. The issue is foreign university in India. Will it work? Biggest question, will it add value to Indian students? Will it add value to Indian students who are hoping for better, who are aspiring for better, and perhaps their parents cannot shell the dollar equivalent in rupee to get them to stay and live there? Student loans are rising, it's difficult for parents. Does this give a feasible and equivalent option which has the same value? That's one question I have, and I'll come to Meeta Sen Gupta on it and then get Jagdish Kumar's response. Will the value of a degree from an affiliate in India be the same as someone having gone and studied on the campus of that university? For a second, let me leave out the Ivy League, because that seems to be a different ballgame altogether, whether they'll come, whether they'll not. But will the value of that degree be the same?
There is no doubt that the campus experience is valuable, but I think in terms of the wider debate and specifically for student value, we need to create a different argument for the teaching and therefore impact on students, and the research culture. Both of them are journeys, but getting quality teaching into Indian universities and affiliates of foreign universities into India is an easier journey than the journey that everybody acknowledges that is ahead for us in the research arena. The research arena journey, and we know that from citation numbers, we know that from the other league tables, etc. Now, with the interaction that we can build, even if we start with the 400s and 500s and the 300s in the league table, and I agree that might sound like a compromise to those of us who have high aspirations. But even if we do, we have to remember two things. One, it will bring access to those universities. It will bring equivalent levels of teaching. It will bring competition to Indian universities. Most importantly, in the journey for Indian universities, or let's say teaching for Indian students to climb up to the hundreds, it will bring interaction, and interaction brings reputation, which helps India rise on the league table chart. This is a long journey. I see this as a decadal journey at least. You see, if in 25% of the league tables is about, do you know any Indian professors who have done excellent work? If you want to move up the league tables, you will have to create that volume of interaction. And which is why my first intervention and question to the chairman was, are we actually actively working on these research platforms that Professor Kapila said, where Indian professors can work with abroad, can work with researchers in India and raise education research standards? The current policy that we are discussing is about creating interactive platforms where teachers and professors can bring in their quality of research, engage with Indian students directly, indirectly, in different ways. We're creating these multi-channels. And therefore, my keyword for the chairman is platforms, please.
All right, Jagdish Kumar, a lot of responses here, and I think one gauge of whether policy will work or not, or whether there's excitement about it, is the range of responses you get. And I'm glad you're getting so many tough questions as well, and not just praises that this is great. We want to see how it will work out. One concern I want to talk about, things like, even Ms. Anubha said, will there be reservation? Now, are you going to impose that on foreign universities that come here? Things like, you can teach this, you cannot teach that. You can research this, you cannot research that. Will they be subject to, points like that? Will they have truly the freedom to pursue the academic excellence like they do in any part of the world?
Absolutely. Our regulations are very clear that whether it's the admission process, faculty recruitment, and the kind of academic programs they will conduct in their campuses, it is completely up to them. But let me also add to what my previous panelist has said, creating those platforms for collaborative work between Indian professors and foreign professors. If you recall, in May 2022, we issued a regulation on twinning joint and dual degrees. This enables our students, for example, if there is an arrangement between an Indian institute and a foreign institute, our PhD students can work for 2 years here and 2 years elsewhere and then get a joint degree. These are the enabling mechanisms that we need to create in our country, and we are doing that. And establishing campuses of the foreign universities is another enabling platform that we are creating. And also, let me add here, out of 4.5 lakh students who have gone abroad, how many of them have joined in Harvard, Stanford, and Cambridge? And even if all the 4.5 lakh students want to join, can these Ivy League universities admit all these students? Obviously not. There are always limitations on how many students you can take. Therefore, students have to go to other universities in other countries. So that is the reason why we said the universities within the top 500 are eligible to come here to India. Let's not assume that all of them are coming here because they want to make money. Let's also have trust. These are some of the globally well-known universities.
Right.
They may not be
and maybe they do
Harvard,
want to make
Stanford,
right.
Right?
No, but everyone doesn't get to go to Harvard, Stanford. Everyone doesn't get to go to IIT, IIM either. Let's really be honest. Not everybody gets to go to JNU.
Therefore, we need to create alternate models.
Yes.
We need to create alternate models and alternate platforms and encourage them to do their best.
It's a start. It's an interesting start. Let's see how it pans out. It will be very interesting to see which are the universities who want to come and set up shop. And hopefully they will have the autonomy to pursue academic excellence that they deserve. Thank you so much to all of you for joining us on The Big Debate this evening. We'll take a very short